Nick Woltemade.
Delivers the ball for Woltemade! Nick Woltemade!
Wissa.
Wissa! How about that? A party piece and a half from Yoane Wissa.
Elanga.
Gets to it and is racing through the United half with Gibbs White to his left. Elanga goes on and Elanga scores! Oh, what a goal! Magnificent from Anthony Elanga!
Malik Chow.
Help the team to do some good stuff and hopefully to win some stuff here in the Premier League.
Jacob Ramsey.
And Jacob Ramsey on the dash to score a belting goal!
Newcastle are looking pretty good. At the start of the summer transfer window, they were being laughed at online. People called them Rejection FC because every big name linked with them seemed to end up somewhere else. Graphics were being shared of players they didn't sign. To make matters worse, Paul Mitchell had just left as the sporting director, leaving the assistant head of recruitment Andy Howe to unexpectedly step up and lead negotiations. But fast forward and the story flipped. Newcastle ended the summer spending a record £241 million on 5 permanent signings, the most they've ever spent in one window. They even smashed their transfer record with a £69 million move for Nick Woltemade, a striker that Bayern Munich couldn't even convince Stuttgart to sell. Despite all the chaos and no CEO or sporting director in place, the recruitment team managed to strengthen every key area. From being a meme for missing out, Newcastle now look like they've quietly built a strong squad heading into the Premier League season. Let's start with Newcastle's biggest signing, the massive German Woltemade. He's not just big because of the transfer fee, but also because of his size. Seriously, look at him standing next to Burn. After one of the most toxic transfer windows ever, Isak was finally sold by Newcastle, and as much as the fans don't like him, it was clear that the club had to go big in the market to find players that could come even close to the Swedes' output. They had tried to get Strand Larsen from Wolves, they had wanted Joao Pedro, Ekitike, and Shesko, but they weren't able to get any of them. Heading into the final full week of the window, Newcastle United were still looking all over Europe for a striker. Then, they got him. Newcastle fans finally have something to smile about. After weeks of frustration and endless rumors, the club landed a big one, Nick Woltemade. And not just anyone. Bayern Munich were in a race too for this guy, but it's Newcastle who got the deal done. That's a huge statement, going head to head with a top European club and beating them. Eddie Howe had been looking to add more size and strength to his squad, and with Woltemade, he's done exactly that. The guy stands at 6'6", but what really caught Newcastle's eye wasn't just his height, it was his skill on the ball and how he linked up with his teammates. This guy is not your typical big striker who just waits in the box. He's not as fast or mobile as Isak, but he's very smart with his movement. He likes to drop deep, connect with the midfielders, and create chances for others. Think of the way that Harry Kane played for Spurs and he plays for Bayern now. Think about Kai Havertz for Arsenal. That's closer to his style. The numbers back it up too. His link-up play scores 87 out of 99, and his creative threat is 88 out of 99. Basically, he's not just there to finish moves, he helps build them too. Newcastle see Woltemade as the guy that can unlock the speed around him. With runners like Gordon, Harvey Barnes, Elanga, and Jacob Murphy, his job is to hold the ball up, link up play, and let those wingers burst in behind. The idea of a front three with Woltemade, Elanga, and Gordon is quite exciting. All young, quick, and full of potential. Woltemade is happy playing as the main striker, but he can also drop in as a second forward or switch roles with his teammates. Newcastle believe that he's grown a lot over the past 2 years, especially as a finisher inside the box. They need more goals, and they trust that Eddie Howe can take Woltemade's game to the next level. In the 2024-2025 season, he hit 12 goals in the Bundesliga, his best return so far, and almost all of them came from inside the box. What stood out to Newcastle scouts is the way that he creates chances for himself. He's not as fast as Gordon or Elanga. Obviously, the guy's 6'6", but he makes up for it by moving the ball very quickly, keeping attacks flowing, and then getting into the right spot himself to finish it off. He's super tall, so you expect him to just be a big target man, but he's a very unique profile. He's extremely technical, very creative on the ball, and great at linking up. He's not the most clinical finisher yet, but his mix of size, skill, and vision make him a true unicorn. Now, Woltemade isn't the only attacker Newcastle signed. They also got Wissa. You know how Isak basically refused to train, put out an IG story, and then made his profile a black circle like he's some edgy teenager? Yeah, Wissa did all the same things in an effort to leave Brentford. In fact, the signing almost didn't happen. Reportedly, his move was completed with under 30 seconds to spare because Wissa had failed to sign one of the forms, and it was left to one of his representatives to sprint through Newcastle's training ground to find the striker and get him to quickly sign the document. I mean, could you imagine having to drive back to London after months of trying to force a move, all because you failed to sign one form? Thankfully, Thankfully, it's all done. Wissa was signed in a deal worth £55 million. Isak and Callum Wilson leaving meant that Newcastle had to sign 2 strikers, and now they have a new duo of Wissa and Woltemade. Wissa is a Premier League proven versatile forward who can play anywhere on the front line, and he's coming off the back of a fantastic season. He scored 19 goals and got 4 assists in the Premier League. His game has really grown over the last 2 years. He became a regular starter, racking up 63 Premier League starts compared to just 28 in the 2 years before that. That consistency has shown in his numbers. By timing his runs into the box and finding good positions, he scored 31 league goals. On top of that, his chances were coming from high quality area. His average of 0.21 expected goals per shot was the best in the Premier League for a player with at least 50 shots and 9,000 minutes. The shot map shows the same thing. Wissa was shooting more often, and he was getting those shots off closer to goal. Wissa's goals often came down to his perfect sense of timing. At Brentford under Thomas Frank, the team liked to play direct, and Wissa thrived in that system. A great example was his goal against Nottingham Forest. Mark Flecken launched it long. Bryan Mbeumo pulled the defender out of position, and Wissa slipped in between the center back and fullback. One touch later, he was coolly chipping Matt Sells into the net. You can really see how good Wissa's timing is when we look at his goal against Bournemouth in May of 2024. He started the move himself, carrying the ball forward on the counter before playing it out wide to Mbeumo. Instead of rushing into the box, Wissa held his run for a moment while Mbeumo sized up his options. Then with perfect timing, he darted him behind Lloyd Kelly and away from Tyler Adams. A few seconds later, he was slotting home the winner in stoppage time. Wissa might only be 5'8", but that has not stopped him from being a threat in the air. He scored 4 headed goals in the Premier League in the 2024-2025 season, a tally that only Chris Wood managed to beat with 8. What makes him so good is that he's aggressive with his movement and times his runs really well. Let's look at his header against Bournemouth. Mbeumo sends in the corner, and Wissa, who is circled in red here, runs towards the penalty spot. He then rises some distance off the ground to beat the 6'5" Dean Housen. Another aspect of Wissa's game that Newcastle fans will love is his work rate. At Brentford, he didn't just score. He pressed hard, he chased back, and never stopped running. That effort often turned defense into attack, like his goal against Brighton. First, he blocked a cross from Mats Wiefer, with the ball breaking to Mikkel Damsgaard. As Damsgaard drove forward, Wissa burst into a run, keeping pace with the move. The ball eventually found Bryan Mbeumo, who cut inside and slipped it back to Wissa, and he finished via a deflection off Lewis Dunk. From back to front in seconds, like true Geordie in the bedroom, and Wissa was key at both ends. This style is exactly what Newcastle thrived on in the 2024-2025 season. They created 8.6 expected goals from fast breaks, second only to Liverpool, and led the league with 13 open play goals from crosses. Wissa's timing, smart movement, and ability to adjust his runs on the fly to meet passes from wide areas fit that perfectly. Add in his tireless off the ball running and comfort in half spaces, and he looks like the kind of player who will create openings for teammates like Gordon, Elanga, Barnes, and Bruno Guimaraes to exploit. Plus, it's nice for Newcastle to have an attacker who actually wants to be there. Before both of these guys, Newcastle had already signed Anthony Elanga to beef up their right wing position. The winger was a key figure for Nuno's Forest in the 2024-2025 campaign as they qualified for Europe. He got 6 goals and 11 assists just in the Premier League. Now, Jacob Murphy had a wonderful season, but Elanga helps out the club even more. He's got more speed, can create more chances, and gives more depth on that side. Elanga brings much more than just raw speed. Like Jacob Murphy, he's right-footed, but he can use his left comfortably, which means he can whip in crosses from all kinds of angles. In the 2024-2025 season, 6 of his deliveries led directly to goals within 5 seconds, the joint highest in the league. In total, he completed 43 crosses, with only Bryan Mbeumo doing better. Under Eddie Howe, Newcastle loved to work the wide area, and having a winger who can deliver with both feet makes Elanga really dangerous. We saw it in Forest's FA Cup tie against Ipswich. With little room to cross on the right, he quickly shifted onto his left foot and curled the ball perfectly into Ryan Yates' head for a goal. In another game against Leicester, he showed how switching between feet makes him quicker. Dribble with one, strike with the other, all before the defender can shut him down. The stats back up how good his deliveries are. Elanga created 6 assists from crosses in the Premier League, more than any other player in the 2024-2025 season. Even on a per game basis, he ranks second among players with over 900 minutes. His expected assists, 0.12 per 90, put him among the league's best creators from wide areas. And while he slightly outperformed the numbers, it showed just how dangerous his delivery is. And it's not just from open play, his set piece delivery is strong too. For a Newcastle side that thrives off dead ball situations, he becomes that much more valuable. With his pace and dribbling, Elanga is a nightmare in transition. Exactly the kind of weapon Newcastle leaned on in previous seasons. He's very versatile too, able to play anywhere across the front line. And it's not just what he does on the ball. Off the ball, he works very hard and is fully committed defensively, making him a perfect fit for Eddie Howe's pressing and tactical system. Under Eddie Howe, Newcastle have really built their identity around transition football. Their midfielders bring in the power, the attackers bring the speed, and together they create a team built to hurt opponents on the break. The numbers once again back it up. In football terms, a direct attack means starting with the ball in your own half and within 15 seconds creating a shot or getting into the opposition box. Basically a fancy way of saying a counterattack. In the 2025 season, Newcastle averaged 3.9 direct attacks per game in the Premier League. That was the second highest in the league, only behind the champions Liverpool, and it was the best rate Newcastle had managed since Eddie Howe took charge. Newcastle's quick, counter-attacking style is tailor-made for Elanga. On the right wing, he can fly forward with the ball at top speed, but still keep his head up and make smart choices. That makes him deadly when Newcastle win the ball and catch the opponent out of shape. We saw it perfectly in Forest's win over Manchester United in the previous season. Elanga picked up a clearance from Ryan Yates in his own half, drove the length of the pitch, and coolly slotted it past Andre Onana. Now I know scoring against Onana isn't impressive, but I want to focus on how Elanga created that opportunity. It was the perfect example of what he brings in transition. Raw pace, but combined with composure. If you analyze this goal closely, you can see Elanga's two-footedness. If you want pure pace with no composure, just look at Garnacho. When he's near the United penalty area, he pushes the ball with his right foot, but because he's also so good with his left, he can quickly strike the ball into the corner without having to adjust his entire body. Here's another example in a game against Brighton. Forest are in transition and Elanga uses his left foot to dribble past Lewis Dunk before using his right foot to cross the ball into Chris Wood. Being this fast while also being comfortable with both feet makes Elanga terrifying. He's of course also one of the fastest players in the Premier League. It's actually his speed that stands out right away when you watch him. It's a superpower, and the stats back that up. Mickey van de Ven may have recorded the single fastest sprint in the 2025 season, but Elanga was the real sprint king. Out of the 20 fastest runs in the league, 7 belong to him. That's insane pace, and it's a big reason why people think he can quickly become a fan favorite at St. James's Park. What makes Elanga's numbers even crazier is the consistency. Nobody else in the league's top 20 fastest sprints managed them more than once, not even Van de Ven. But Elanga did it on multiple occasions. On top of that, he played all 38 league games for Forest, showing just how durable and reliable he is. Eddie Howe will definitely look towards using his blistering pace to punish teams on the counter. But as I stated earlier, Elanga isn't just about raw pace anymore. He's not Adama Traore. Under Nuno Espirito Santo at Forest, he added more to his game. He became smarter in his movement, sharper in his end product, and just a bigger overall threat. He's still young, so he's developing, and Newcastle believe he can be so much more than just a speedster, because he had stepped up his creativity too, finishing with 11 Premier League assists, an improvement on the 9 he managed the season before. Now at Newcastle, he'll look to build on that even more, playing under Eddie Howe, a manager who has a history of getting the most out of his players. Manchester United might look back and wonder if they let this guy go too soon. For Elanga though, leaving Old Trafford in 2023 was the best decision of his career. He's now playing Champions League football with Newcastle, and his rise shows no sign of slowing down. To add some more depth to their midfield, Newcastle signed Jacob Ramsey from Aston Villa. Ramsey made 167 senior appearances for Villa since making his league debut in September of 2020 as a teenager. In the 2024-2025 season, he played 45 games across all competitions and scored 1 goal and got 5 assists in the league after struggling with injuries. I was actually a little confused on why Villa wanted to sell him. I thought he was pretty good for them. Turns out they basically had to sell a first team player in the summer. The profitability and sustainability rules and UEFA squad cost rules meant their wage bill couldn't exceed 70% of their revenue, so to strengthen their squad, they had to make space. Jacob Ramsey was the obvious solution. He counted as pure profit since he came through Villa's academy, and while he was not a huge earner, his sales freed up wages and flexibility in the market. Villa also knew that he'd attract interest because he's actually a very good player. For Newcastle, the move was about depth in midfield. Sean Longstaff left for Leeds, dropping their senior midfield options down. With Eddie Howe using a 3-man midfield and Champions League football back on the schedule, they needed reinforcements. Ramsey isn't going to start right away. That's normal under Eddie Howe, plus the midfield is already pretty stacked, but his Premier League experience and Champions League experience make him such a valuable addition to this team, especially adding more depth considering that Newcastle are in more competitions this year. His athleticism, energy, and attacking instinct give Newcastle something different. He will mainly provide competition for Joe Linton in the left-sided number 8 role, though Joe Linton's physicality and versatility will keep him first choice at least for now. The key will be opportunities. Newcastle expect a long season with European fixtures, meaning Ramsey will get plenty of minutes as Eddie Howe rotates. He can also fill in as a left winger if needed, adding more flexibility to the squad. What Ramsey did best at Villa was find space in between the lines. That allows Newcastle to have a different profile in the center of the park, someone that can offer a little bit more creativity. Eddie Howe says that Jacob Ramsey is exactly the type of player Newcastle are looking for. He's young, hungry, and eager to grow. Now, Newcastle didn't just invest big in their attack, they also reinforced their back line with the signing of Malik Chow. Malik really wanted Newcastle, and in a summer filled with rejections and Isak acting like a 17-year-old teenage girl, it was really nice to see someone actually want to be at Newcastle. That enthusiasm lifted the entire club. Sources say that if he hadn't pushed so clearly for the move from AC Milan to the Premier League, the deal probably wouldn't have happened this quickly, if at all. But Newcastle got it done. 35 million euros up front, plus 5 million euros in add-on. That finally ends their 3-year search for Fabian Schär's long-term successor. In the 2024-2025 season, Eddie Howe had to rely on Dan Burn and Schär, while Bodman battled injuries and Jamal Lascelles missed the whole year. Now he's got 5 senior center backs, and all of them with Champions League experience. As for Chow himself, Newcastle see him as a rough gem. At 24 years old, he's already got the physical tools and the experience to make an impact, but there's still plenty of room for him to grow, especially under Eddie Howe's coaching. He's versatile across the center back positions and has the potential to become a really good Premier League defender. He ticks off a lot of boxes for Newcastle. At 6'4", he's big and strong, but he's also quick once he gets going. Off the ball, he's very comfortable playing in a high line. He can break lines with his passes and even switch the play with long diagonal balls, something Eddie Howe really values in his center backs. Yes, he's not the finished end product yet. He can switch off at times and still has a lot of areas to polish, but that's exactly what excites Eddie Howe and his staff. They see a player with all the raw tools who can be developed into something special. For Eddie Howe, this signing is huge because all of last season there was a debate on whether Newcastle should go for a ball-playing center back or someone with raw pace. With Malik Chow, they feel like they got a mix of both. The club had tracked him for 2 years, and he'd been high on their center back shortlist for the last 3 transfer windows. Now they've finally gotten their man. As I stated earlier, Chow isn't just a defender, he can pass very well too. He's great at breaking the first line, whether it's by spreading the ball wide or picking out a midfielder through the middle. Schär's diagonal balls have always been a big part of Eddie Howe's style. Chow's isn't quite as polished there yet, but he can still hit those cross the field passes, and it adds another weapon to Newcastle's build-up. He's also able to slip passes in behind defenses, though his weight of delivery is something he can still improve on. Defensively, scouts love how eager he was to step up and shut down attack. Again, the guy's 6'4", so he is able to dominate both ground and aerial duel. Overall, he looks like the prototype of a modern Premier League center back. Aggressive, athletic, and very comfortable pressing high or tracking strikers who drop deep. With the right coaching, this guy can become a top center back. Newcastle are no longer Rejection FC, and their team might be even better than before. To see just how good their rise has been under Eddie Howe, you have to check out this video right here.